It's a joy to be here. I'm looking forward to a week of getting to know you better and having opportunities to share and talk and explore. That's really what SEE is all about. It's not about taking notes and memorizing facts and taking tests. It's about sharing and getting to know each other better as we share this amazing path and these amazing principles. I drove down here yesterday from Connecticut, and I spent this past week in particular preparing for the 2 classes that I'll be teaching this week. And at the same time, when I go back next Saturday, I am moving and downsizing, simplifying my life. I don't know how simplifying can be quite so complicated, but some of you are nodding. You know that it is. So yesterday, as I was running around trying to get packed, I had friends there with the Salvation Army taking some of the furniture out. I had boxes packed everywhere. I had my dog having a nervous breakdown in the corner because he's not sure what all of this means. But I got off, and I had a very pleasant trip down, and discovered this morning that I had neglected to put my blue blazer in the car. And I only found that out this morning when I went to the car, and it wasn't there, and I thought, oh no. Who am I without my blue blazer? I don't know that I've ever, as a minister, stood up in front of a congregation on a Sunday morning without a jacket of some kind on. I mean, how will they know I know what I'm talking about if I don't have my blue blazer on? And I thought, well, we'll just have to muddle through. We'll just have to do the best we can. And I was so appreciative of the example that gives for me to focus on one of the most important lessons that I'm dealing with in my own life and in my own ministry right now, and that's the power and the importance of mindfulness. Jennifer touched on it several times in her meditation. We have all of these crazy thoughts, or am I alone in that? All of these crazy thoughts, and if we had to conquer them or make them go away, I would not be standing here. But if we can hear those thoughts and know that we are not those thoughts, if we can recognize that there is that within us that loves all of the craziness that we are, that absolutely recognizes that having those crazy thoughts and dealing with them is part of the purpose of this spiritual journey. And knowing that there is that within me that is not affected by those thoughts, but observes them, doesn't have to buy into them, doesn't have to believe them, that's part of the spiritual journey that is the highest dimension of this human experience. Mindfulness. I'm going next month and boy, when these things happen, you just have to say yes, because I did nothing to make this happen, but I've been invited to join Byron Katie. Some of you may be familiar with Byron Katie's work, and her husband, Stephen Mitchell, who's a friend of mine, in Germany, to spend 9 days focusing on mindfulness, focusing on being here now, focusing on, Byron Katie she's rough about this. I'm kind of scared, to tell you the truth. Because she's no nonsense about it. If you're making a salad, you're not making a salad wondering whether the roast is going to be done in time or wondering what's on television tonight. You're making a salad, and you're appreciating the leaves and the green and the colors and the smells. And whatever you do as you move through life, you are there now. So I'm looking forward to that. But as I said, I'm a little bit nervous as well, because I'm in Germany, for heaven's sake. I can't exactly run home if it gets a little too painful, can I? Mindfulness. I am the go-to person on the Unity website, unity.org website, for questions about the Bible. I don't know how this ever happened to a good Catholic kid, who grew up knowing nothing about the Bible, in a church. I don't know if any of you are former Catholics, but the message I got was from priests and nuns alike was, don't bother, we'll tell you what's in it. No, don't look yourself. We'll tell you what's in it. And so when I first found Unity, I would rush every Sunday. It was exhausting. I would hear the minister say, well, and Jesus said, what I have done you will do. And I said, he never said that. I have never heard a nun or a priest say, Jesus said that you will do what he did. Then I'd run home and look in the Bible, and it was there, and then I would go into a rage against organized religion. And it was exhausting. Exhausting. It was exhausting. One of the questions that has come in a couple of times, a lot of the questioners are not unity people. They are Baptists and cynics and atheists and people who would like to catch me out and make me look a fool, which isn't all that difficult to do. As Ogun can tell you, he's been to some meetings with me and he knows that. Nice work. I wish I had a church where I could come in and just drum on Sundays. I could handle that, Ogun. I could do that. One of the questions was, well, show me one point in the Bible that supports Unity's belief system. Well, you know, the first answer is every point in the Bible supports Unity's belief system. That's my passion. That's what I'm about. But is there one place I turn to? Yes, there is. And since I won't get to talk about it in either of the two classes that I'll be teaching this week, I thought I'd spend a few minutes with it this morning, because I am so passionate about it. I go back to it again and again and again, not to reread it, or not simply to reread it, but to move into it, to walk in it, to kick its tires and stare at the characters involved and look for a different perspective that I can find that might give me a different attitude toward it. It is the greatest short story ever written. We know it as a parable of Jesus, but Buddhists know it as a parable of Buddha. Very interesting. Not many people know that there is a wonderful scripture in Buddhism called the Lotus Sutra, which contains essentially the same story. There are interesting variations. We don't have time to go into all of that this morning, but it is the story of the prodigal son, Luke 15. You know the story. It is, I think, the greatest story ever written because it is your story, it is my story at its most succinct. It is, I feel in it Jesus trying to say, okay, please, listen, let me at least leave you with this. I don't think you're getting all of this, frankly. You know, he often gets a little alarmed with his disciples at what they think they're hearing versus what he's trying to say. But please, at least remember this. And you know the story. Father of infinite wealth and love and kindness, two sons, older and younger. We don't know where the mother is. She's somewhere wherever the mother was on Bonanza, you know, where with the Cartwrights. It's just, you know, the kids just showed up on the doorstep one day and nobody really knows, nobody talks about it. The younger son says, I think I'd like to explore. I feel this urge. I feel this urge to do something more than just stay here and be a dutiful son. There's nothing suggesting that he's been mistreated. He's not running away from home. He's simply saying, there's got to be more out there. I want to know more. I want to know more. And the father, there's no suggestion, despite the ways in which the story has been interpreted, there's no suggestion the father is angry about that, or that he feels, okay, then this is your punishment. Father says, okay, fine, here's your share, here's your inheritance, I'll give it to you now. Go, explore. And he does. And he goes off, and he spends his father's wealth. He spends the wealth that he believes is his inheritance, and he has a wonderful time. He meets people, he makes friends, he has adventures, he has discoveries, he sees beautiful places, he learns as he goes. But when we are far away for a long period of time, sometimes we lose sight of where we came from. And the day comes when the son begins to feel like he isn't a part of that anymore, like he doesn't have that infinite abundance any longer. He decides that he is lacking and that he needs to do something about that. And so he goes to look for a job. All of his friends have deserted because he doesn't have any abundance to share anymore. He's locked in a belief in lack. And so he goes to find a job. And he finds a job that every Jewish mother listening to Jesus tell this story would have gasped in horror. He feeds pigs. Oi, a good Jewish boy is feeding pigs. Oh, God, this is so sad. But he learns. He learns, and he bottoms out, as we would say in 12-step work. And he says, this doesn't work for me. This doesn't work for me. I need to be reconnected to my source. Even the servants in the fields have it better than I have here. So I'm going to go back, and he rehearses the whole thing very carefully. He learns the prayer. I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, Father, I have sinned against you and I'm sorry, and please let me go in the fields and be. And he stands up and decides to go. And then we're told he doesn't have to go very far because the father comes running. And the father says, glad you're home. Here's your robe. Here's your ring. Here are your slippers. Here is the truth of who you are. Here is the abundance that was always available to you. It was never withheld. That was part of your dream. That was part of your illusion. That was part of the fear that you experienced along the way. You picked it up en route. Now you can know that you are who you ever were, and there is no separation. There could not be. How could there be? Now, in the Buddhist version, which I really kind of love, when the prodigal son is at his lowest ebb, when he's feeding the pigs, he goes mad. And he becomes a wandering beggar with no memory of who he is, who he ever was. He just wanders aimlessly with a bowl and begs for pittance. And in his wanderings, he eventually returns to his father's kingdom, and his father sees him and knows him, but also knows that he cannot handle the shock of being told, you are the heir to the kingdom. So his father does, in fact, let him work in the fields until he heals enough that he's ready to come into the house and be a house servant, and then heals enough that he's ready to be given more authority, and eventually heals enough that he's ready to be told the truth. I really love that, because to me that is an absolute testimony to the infinite love that we can barely encompass when we try to think about our divine source. That we are with that source, loved by that source, no matter how insane we may be, no matter how much we have bought into the illusion. So in that sense, I think the prodigal son, here we'll blend in some Jewish scripture, why not? The prodigal son is very much Adam, don't you think? Saying Adam before he had the rib surgery, when Adam was Adam, human, encompassing the male and the female, and feeling that urge that says, I want to be creative. And of course, as is true in Genesis, God is very much encouraging that. I mean, why else would a loving God put a gorgeous tree with absolutely succulent fruit right in the middle of the garden where you cannot fail to see it, and then say, don't you touch that? Don't you touch that? Hoping that we will. But it has to be our choice. Hoping that we will say, I want to be creative. I don't want to just sit here and accept what is. I feel the need to create more possibility, to extend creation. So the prodigal son is Adam stepping out into the new world, getting distracted by the lessons and the discoveries and the temptations and the confusion and the fear along the way. And then, of course, we have the whole other part of the story, don't we? The older brother. The older brother who stayed at home, did everything he was told, and comes back, and you know the story. They're killing a fatted calf. The brother is having his friends over for a barbecue, in the backyard, and he says, "What's going on here? You never gave me I've never invited my friends over. You never killed a fatted calf for me. Never mind the poor fatted calf. I don't know what he did to deserve this, but that's another story too, isn't it? And the father says, basically, you never asked. You never asked. Everything you have ever asked of me, I have given you. It is not my fault if you didn't ask for everything you wanted. So there's an incredible prosperity lesson, all wrapped up in this one simple story, one chapter in one gospel of the New Testament. Ask. The prodigal son said, I'd like my inheritance. I'd like to know my good. I'd like to go out and experience it in the world. The older son said, I'm content to stay here. Okay, fine, but then don't build up resentments about it, If these are your choices, then accept that those are your choices. The mantra that I use for almost everything is show me the good. Show me the good. Whatever this is, show me the good. I'd like to think there's more to the story because, as I said, I move around inside it. I travel around. I talk to these characters in my meditations. And does anybody here really believe that the prodigal son settled in happily at home and lived happily ever after in his father's kingdom? You do? I don't think so. I tend to think that he probably, after a while, said, I think I'd like to go out again. I think I'd like to do it differently this time. I think I'd like to take some of those lessons and take them with me. I think I'd like to go with a greater consciousness of the abundance I have, the abundance I am. I'd like to do this again. And maybe my older brother would like to come with me this time. This is an ongoing journey. It's an ongoing process. And in that story, we have everything that unity knows and affirms to be universal spiritual truth. We have the one presence, the one power. We have the truth that you cannot escape that power. You cannot be thrown out of it. You cannot be disassociated from it. It is the truth of who you are. It is the Christ of your being, or the Buddha of your being. It is the truth of who you are. Not that there's something inside you called the Christ. As Eric Butterworth says, it's not like a raisin in a bun. It is the truth of everything you are. Every cell in your body is the Christ. Every crazy thought you have is the Christ. There is nothing about you that is not the Christ. The creative power of mind. Well, there's the older brother. Choose what you want. Choose how you want to create. And the tools and the materials will be given to you to make that happen, to make that possible. The power of prayer. Sitting in that pigsty saying, I know I belong someplace else. I know that I'm connected in a way that I've forgotten. And I think it's time that I remember. I'm going to align myself with that power of good, And then putting it into practice. Coming back and not saying, oh, I'm so sorry I left, I'll just stay here and pretend that never happened. But coming back and saying, I learned some interesting things out there. I had some really wonderful possibilities to be loving and to share the love. I think I'm going to go back again and do it some more because I'm just starting to get the hang of this. Let me do it again. And we do it every day when we get out of bed. We do it every day. We create. We find ourselves distant from where we thought we were. Distant from our spiritual truth. We remind ourselves that we can't be distant from our spiritual truth. And we make the prayerful choices in consciousness that will align ourselves again with that truth and allow it to become the energy of our lives. And we come back home at the end of the day and we look back and we appreciate what we've done and the lessons learned, and then we get up again and we go again. So that in particular is the passage in the Bible that I turn to when people say, where does unity get this stuff? Unity gets this stuff from divine mind. We get it from the same source. We don't say it's true because it says so in the Bible. We say it's true because it's true. And it says so in the Bible. And it says so in the Lotus Sutra, and it says so in the Quran, and it says so in scriptures across this wonderful globe. We have that opportunity more every day to be mindful of what we're doing, less caught up in the drama of it all. Anybody else getting really kind of tired of the dramas that I used to love to have around me in life because it sort of justified that I was alive? I'm kind of over drama if nobody minds, and a lot of people do mind because they're knocking on my door with new dramas. I'm not really so open to that. I want to be mindful. I want to be the mindfulness. That's what we'll be talking about this week. Not just in our classes, not just what you're hearing from us and the other teachers, but in talking to each other. That's the great gift of SCE, is you come together with people from here, people from other Unity centers. You share, you talk, you find out that there's a lot we have in common and that there are ideas that you might want to pick up on from somebody else. It's a great opportunity. I'm glad you've given it to yourselves. I hope you'll all take advantage of it. I hope I'll see you all this evening. Thank you, and many blessings.